Hello everyone, how are you all? Hope you all are doing well. So, we are starting with what? Our GST revision series for CA intermediate students. In your taxation paper, the part B GST, we would be doing the revision of this. We have studied full chapter, all the concepts in very deep conceptual clarity. We have done all the chapters. Nowadays, the exams are like that only. They're asking you paper based on your conceptual knowledge, okay? And then followed by question bank. We have done all ICI material question, RTP, MTP, past exam question in the class and all the MCQs, okay? So this is all what we have done. Now what we are going to start? We are going to start, as I've told you, we would be doing what? Revision of GST, goods and service tax part in just 7 hours. In just 7 hours, what we would be doing? We would be doing the revision of full GST, full goods and service tax. All the 15 chapters we would be going to revise only in just 7 hours. Okay, we would be doing the revision with the summary book. If you don't have the summary book, please download it from my website, this icaleague.com. You can, download the book from this website. Now, what we have to start here. Now we would be starting what? As I've told you, chapter number 1, GST in India and introduction. What we would be starting with the revision of the same. This revision series we are doing in English. It will be helpful for South India students. Definitely a series in mixed language would also be uploaded shortly. Okay, now let us now start with what? Chapter number 1, GST in India and introduction. But before that, I'll give you, those who don't know me, I'll give you a very brief introduction about myself. CA Yachana Mutha, a chartered accountant by profession and a teacher by passion. I am a faculty for CA Final and CA Intermediate Indirect Taxation. So now let us now start with what? Beta, GST in India and introduction revision part. So why GST has come in India? Are there any deficiencies in the earlier law system? In exam, they can definitely ask you this, a short note. What are the deficiencies in the earlier law system, or what is the need of GST? Okay, so what you have to write? Are there any deficiencies? Yes, there definitely were the deficiencies. That's why GST has come into India. First deficiency, what we have studied? Cascading of taxes. Yeah, there was cascading of taxes. This levy of non-vatable CST. The CST which was there in the earlier law, the purchaser don't get credit of the same. So there was levy of non-vatable CST. Then inclusion of SENVAT in the value for imposing VAT. If you have to impose VAT, then the SENVAT value is included in the value. So this was a major deficiency. Okay, so we have seen all these examples. Okay, now we are not doing the examples because we have already done all these things. We would only revising the concept. Now there was no SENVAT after the manufacturing stage, you know it very well. Then there was non-integration of what? VAT and service tax. Then there was a double taxation of a transaction. Double taxation of a transaction as goods as well as service. For example, in case of software, what they were saying, it is goods as well as what VAT people were saying, it is goods, service tax were saying it is service. So both the taxes were levied. Now a transaction can either be goods or be service. It cannot be both under GST. Okay, so in the earlier law, one of the major deficiency was double taxation of a transaction as goods as well as service, and there was non-inclusion of several local levies in the state VAT. At the state level also there were so many local levies such as luxury tax, entertainment tax, multiplicity of taxes was a major problem under earlier law system. That is why there is a need for a law to come which provides continuous chain of credit, which is a value added tax, which the burden is borne by the final consumer, and that is why GST came. What is the concept of GST? It is a value added tax. Who has added that much value, he has to pay that much tax only. It's a value added tax. It's a value added tax. Okay, GST is a value added tax. It is on supply. You could be a manufacturer, you could be a seller, you could be anyone, you could be provision of service. If it is supply, then GST will be levied. So either on manufacture, sale, consumption of goods and services, in all the cases only one tax is levied, which is called as GST. Goods and service tax. It provides continuous chain of input tax credit, right from producer, manufacturer up to retail level, consumer level, right from manufacturer till consumer level. They are providing what? Continuous chain of credit. The purchaser will get the credit of whatever taxes he has paid. against his output tax liability. You remember we have seen many examples on this. So each person will get the credit of taxes paid. Whatever taxes you have paid, you will get the credit of those taxes paid at the earlier stage. And who will bear the final burden? The consumer will bear the final burden. You are purchasing Lay's chips, you are paying taxes on that. You are the consumer, you would be bearing the tax on that. The consumer bears. In case of any indirect taxes, in case of GST also, what is there? The consumer will bear the final burden. The consumer will bear the final burden. Everyone in the supply chain, the retailer, the wholesaler, everyone will get the credit of taxes paid at the earlier stage against their output tax liability. I hope it is clear. Since value added at each stage is taxed, there is no tax on tax. Obviously, you are at each stage only the value added is taxed. So there is no tax on tax, or there is no cascading of tax, and GST does not differentiate between goods and services. Thus, those are taxed at a single rate. Now, a transaction can either be goods or be service. It either be goods or service. It cannot be both. It cannot be both. Now, GST in India came under destination based model. We have shifted from origin based taxation system to destination based taxation system. Now the tax revenue will arise to the consuming state. You remember we have studied this. It will arise only to the consuming state. Now if you are doing interstate supply, which tax is levied? You tell me. Which tax is levied? IGST. In case of interstate supply, IGST will be levied and collected by central government. IGST is the revenue of central government. Central government. Then in case of intrastate supply, which taxes are levied? In case of intrastate supply, tax which is levied is CGST plus SGST. For example, Maharashtra to Maharashtra supply, in case of that, CGST plus SGST. CGST is levied and collected by central government. SGST is levied and collected by respective state government. In case of intra-union territory, in that case, CGST plus UTGST. CGST plus UTGST, it will be levied and collected by union territory without state legislature. The union territories which are without state legislature, in that case, the tax that would be collected would be CGST plus UTGST. CGST plus UTGST. Now next, what are the taxes that are subsumed under GST? Very, very important question, ICI favorite question. Okay, so they can ask you what are the central taxes subsumed under GST, what are the state taxes subsumed under GST, or they can ask you both. So you have to study the question carefully. So what are the major taxes that are subsumed under GST? You remember we have studied it with a memory technique. What was the memory technique? CS, where C stands for central excise duty, then A stands for additional excise duty, then C stands for central sales tax, then A stands for additional custom duty, then C stands for central surcharges, S stands for service tax. So CA, CS. Central excise duty, additional excise duty, central sales tax, additional custom duty, central surcharges and service tax. These are the taxes which are subsumed at central level, Then what are the state taxes subsumed under GST? You remember the memory technique, PS love. These are the state taxes that are subsumed under GST. Previously, there were so many taxes, like these taxes are subsumed under GST at the state level. What are those taxes? Purchase tax. P stands for purchase tax, then S stands for state surcharges, then L stands for luxury tax on lottery, betting and gambling, then O stands for octroi and entry tax, and V stands for VAT or sales tax. PS Love, there's a movie, you remember? So PS Love tax have been subsumed at the state level, which is purchase tax, state surcharges, then luxury tax on lottery, betting on gambling, then octroi and entry tax, and then VAT and sales tax. So these taxes are subsumed at the state level. Now the taxes, which tax law has come? GST, goods and service tax. So what all acts have come? So we have studied that those majorly 5. The first one is CGST Act 2017. So major sections which we have remembered in the class, almost all the sections we have remembered in the class. So those sections were from CGST Act 2017. Except few of place of supply, those were from IGST Act. Otherwise all the sections of CGST Act 2017 we have studied, and that you have to quote in exam. Then SGST Act 2017 is for what? 29 states and 3 union territory. What was that 3 union territory? DJP. You remember the memory technique? DJP. These are the 3 union territory which are deemed to be state. They have their own state legislature, which is Delhi, Pondicherry and Jammu and Kashmir. So if you are supplying from Delhi to Delhi, which tax would be levied? CGST plus SGST, not UTGST, because these are deemed to be state. If you are supplying from Jammu Kashmir to Jammu Kashmir, the tax that would be levied would be CGST plus SGST, not UDGST. So in DJP, they are deemed to be states. So which tax law act has been passed for them? SGST Act 2017 for 29 states and 3 union territories, DJP. And then UTGST Act 2017 for all dash DC. You remember the memory technique, all dash DC. What is all dash DC? A stands for Andaman Nicobar, L stands for Lakshadweep, L stands for Ladakh, D stands for Dadra Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, and then C stands for Chandigarh. All dash DC. For them, the tax law which have come is UTGST Act 2017. UTGST Act 2017. And then for interstate transactions, which act has come? IGST Act 2017. In case of interstate, which tax is levied? IGST. Okay. In case of UTGST Act has been passed, you remember, in case of Andaman to Andaman Nicobar, if you are supplying, which tax is levied? CGST plus UTGST. But if you are supplying from Andaman Nicobar to Mumbai, the tax that would be levied would be IGST. So in case of interstate or intra-union territory, which tax is levied? IGST. And then there was a GST Compensation Act 2017 to compensate those states which have occurred loss due to implementation of GST. If some states have occurred loss due to implementation of GST, so then a tax would be levied, which is called as GST compensation. Says the revenue of will accrue to the states who have occurred loss due to the implementation of GST. GST compensation cess is levied on, like you remember those products like tobacco, pan masala and luxury product and demerit product, basically like the car and all those. In those cases, the tax which is levied is GST compensation cess too. Okay, now how genesis of GST in India, how GST has come worldwide and in India. Which was the first country? You only tell me which was the first country to levy GST. France was the first country to levy GST in the year 1954. In the year 1954, France was the first country to levy GST. After that, 160 countries, more than 160 countries have implemented GST. In India, GST was implemented on 1st of July 2017, but in Jammu and Kashmir, GST came into force from 8th of July 2017. 8th of July 2017. Okay, so these 2 dates only you have to remember for exam. Next is GST portal, Goods and Service Tax portal. What is the website for GST? www.gst.gov.in. www.gst.gov.in. This is a website which is managed by GSTN, Goods and Service Tax Network. Goods and Service Tax Network. So what are the functions of GSTN? They facilitate registration. You have to take registration under GST. They facilitate registration. Then whatever the returns you file, they forward it to central as well as state tax authorities. So forwarding the returns to central and state authorities is a function of GSTN. Then computation and settlement of IGST. You know, IGST settlement is a headache. Who is going to undertake that? Who facilitates that? GSTN, computation and settlement of IGST. Okay, then matching of tax payment details with banking network. Whatever the tax payments you make online, match it with banking network is the function of GSTN. Then providing analysis of taxpayer profile. The person who is paying the tax, providing analysis of his profile is being done by GSTN. And then matching engine, running the matching engine for what? Reversal reclaim of ITC is done by the function assigned to GSTN. So these are the functions of GSTN. Then what are the benefits of GST? Are there any benefits to the GST? Obviously, there were a lot of benefits of the GST to the country, to the economy. So there are benefits to economy. It has created a unified national market. A unified national market has been created. There is a boost, major boost in Make in India initiative. The goods and services have become very competitive, very cheaper. There are no tax on tax. That's why we are able to stand in a very better position globally as well. Okay, and that's why there are enhanced investment and more employment opportunity has been created due to implementation of GST. The next benefit is simplified tax structure. Now obviously previously there were 29 states, 29 VAT laws, so multiple taxes were there. Now there is very very harmonized law procedures are there, and there is ease of doing business. Obviously in 29 states there would be only what the GST. If you want to file the GST return, for example, so you can file from one website, www.gst.gov.in. so the tax compliances has reduced, there is ease of doing business, and there is certainty in tax administration. There is automated procedure with greater use of IT. Now you don't have to go to the departments for taking registration, making payments. You can do everything online. There are automated procedure. There's a website, www.gst.gov.in. on that online you can take the registration, you can make the payments, you can file the returns. So there's automated procedure with greater use of IT, and the tax compliances has become very easier now. Previously under different VAT laws there were different tax rates in different states, the different due dates were there. Now there's the procedures have simplified to a larger extent, and the tax compliances have become very easy now under GST. And then there are advantages to trade and industry as well. There's a mitigation of ill effects of cascading. Previously there was tax on tax, now that has been removed, and the mitigating, there is a ill effect of cascading, and there are definitely benefits to small traders as well as entrepreneurs have been benefited to a larger extent. So definitely there is what GST, after the implementation of GST, the country has been benefited a lot. For implementing any law in the country, the constitution is the supreme law of the country. So there's definitely need to amend constitution for implementation of GST as well. Okay, so in exam they can ask you, there are 2-3 important points in the constitutional provision part that we'll discuss. Those are generally in exam they ask you. For example, they ask you short note on 7th schedule to article 246. They can ask you straightforward, or they can ask you what are the 3 lists enumerated under 7th schedule to article 246, or they can ask you write a short note on article 246. You have to write this. So you remember there are 3 lists in article 246. List 1 is union list. What is that? It contains, there are matters in this list in which parliament, central government has the exclusive right to make law. Which is that list 1, union list, which is also called as union list. So these has the matters in respect of which parliament has the exclusive right to make law. For example, income tax is there. Then there is a list 2, which is called as a state list. In respect of, it contains the matters in respect of which a state government. In list 2 there are matters, this list itself is called as a state list. There are matters in respect of which a state government has the exclusive right to make law. Like VAT was there, state government has the exclusive right to make law. So they were making VAT laws. So they are getting power from list 2. Then there is list 3, which is called as concurrent list, in which there are matter in respect of which both central government and state government have the power to make law. Both can come together and make law. Okay, under list 3, under matters under list 3. But in list 3 there was matters like education and forestry and all that. So this list failed, this article 246 failed due to implementation of GST, because under GST both the government, central government, state government has to come together and make law GST. So in this list, in list 1 only union can make law, in list 2 only state can make law, in list 3 both can make law. It is a concurrent list, but in this there were no tax related matters. Forest, education were there. So government has introduced new article for implementation of GST, which is called as article 246, which is very simple. What did they say? The parliament and legislature of every state have the power to make law with respect to GST. The parliament and the legislature of the state will come together and make law, which will be called as what? GST, goods and service tax, imposed by union or by such state. And parliament, they have given exclusive power to parliament to make law with respect to interstate trade or commerce. With respect to interstate trade or commerce, they said parliament has exclusive power to make law. Parliament has exclusive power to make law. Okay. Now, under GST, you remember we have studied this table, you remember it very well. This is very, very important. In this chapter, 2 points are very important. One, which taxes are subsumed under GST. Second, in these products, what are the taxes? So, we'll understand this. This is very important. You remember levy section also we have studied. See, we have studied full. Now we are revising. So you remember levy section, section 9 we have studied. Alcohol has been kept out of this. So under alcohol, which taxes are levied now? It is out of GST. It is out of GST. So the earlier taxes are continued in this. That means on its production or manufacture. On its production or manufacture, state excise is levied. State excise is levied, and on its sale, VAT or CST is levied. In case of intrastate sale, VAT is levied. In case of interstate sale, CST is levied. So it was there before GST also. Now after GST also this is continued. Why? Because this is out of GST. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is completely outside GST. So on its production, state excise is levied. On its sale, VAT in case of intrastate sale, and in case of interstate sale, CST is levied. Then there comes PHMNA item. You remember PHMNA? The memory technique was PHMNA. Petroleum, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel. On its manufacturing, central excise is levied. On its manufacturing, central excise is levied, and on its sale, VAT is levied in case of intrastate sale. In case of intrastate sale, VAT is levied, and in case of interstate sale, CST is levied. In case of interstate sale, CST is levied. So PHMNA item, petroleum, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, aviation turbine fuel, on its manufacturing, central excise is levied. On its sale, VAT or CST, as the case may be, is levied. And then comes tobacco and tobacco products. On tobacco and tobacco products, on its manufacturing, central excise is levied. On its manufacturing, central excise is levied. On its sale, GST is levied. Tobacco is a special item. On its manufacturing, central excise is levied, but on its sale, GST is levied. So excise plus GST both are levied in this. Okay, so these are the special product you have to remember in the exam. We have seen in the class, with logic why all these have been continuing like this. So alcohol they have kept completely outside GST. So state excise is levied on its manufacturing, on its sale, VAT and CST, VAT or CST as the case may be. On PHMNA item, central excise on its manufacturing, and on its sale, VAT or CST as the case may be. So PHMNA item, what they have said, they have not kept it out of GST. They have said that they will levy GST on this from a notified date. They are yet to notify the date. Till then, the earlier tax law will continue on this, that is on its manufacturing, central excise, on its sale in case of intrastate, VAT in case of intrastate, CST, and then last tobacco and tobacco products on its manufacturing, central excise, on its sale, CST, on its sale, GST. So in case of tobacco and tobacco products, manufacturing, central excise, on its sale, GST. Then last in this chapter we'll see GST Council. Sometimes they ask you short note on this GST. What is the write a short note on Article 279A, or write a short note on GST Council, that you have to write. GST Council, who has constituted, who has the right to constitute it? The President. This Article 279A of the Constitution, these are the articles of Constitution. They empower whom? President of India. He will constitute a joint forum of center and state. He will constitute a joint forum center and state, which is called as GST Council. Who is the chairperson of GST Council? Union Finance Minister. Who is the chairperson of GST Council? Union Finance Minister. And the member are Union Minister of State, who are in charge of revenue or finance as member, or Minister of charge of finance or taxation. Minister of charge of finance or taxation are the member. Who will be the vice chairperson? The state finance minister will choose among themselves that who will be the vice chairperson. What is the role of GST Council? GST Council will provide recommendation on all GST related matters. Everything under GST is done by recommendation of GST Council only. They'll provide recommendation to the states and center on what? Taxes, cess, surcharge which will be levied by state, local bodies which will be subsumed under GST. They have provided already the recommendation, and the taxes which have subsumed that we have already seen. Okay. So they have provided recommendation on this. Then the GST that may be subjected to or exempted from goods or services. The goods and services that may be subjected to or exempted, some goods like in our country, the essential goods are exempted. So who provide that recommendation? The GST Council that provide that recommendation, that which goods and services will be leviable to tax, which will be exempt from tax. Then what will be the model of GST law? The principle of levy, apportionment of GST, in supply in case of interstate trade, commerce, principle that govern place of supply, everything. What will be the model of GST laws? All these things have been, recommended by GST Council only. What are the what will be the threshold limit of turnover below which goods and services may be exempted from GST? The threshold limits and all, everything. Who decides? GST Council decides. You remember, you have to take threshold limits for registration. There are different threshold limits are given. Who decides? Who gives that recommendation? GST Council gives that recommendation to union and states. Then the rates, including floor rates for a specified period, special provision with respect to special category states, we have seen in registration chapter and composition chapter. Who gives all these things, the special provisions and all? Who provides those recommendations? GST Council. And any matter relating to GST, as the council may decide, that will be recommended by council. So this council has been formed to provide recommendation to union and states in matter related to GST. And from the initial stage, they are continuously providing recommendation on different things. So in exam they can ask you the question, what, write a short note on GST Council. So you have to write all these provisions. So this is the chapter which we have done. In this chapter, as I have told you, two most important things are there. The first one is this, the taxes which are levied on these special products, and the second one, which taxes are subsumed under GST and which taxes are not subsumed under GST. Most important things in this chapter. Okay, so we have completed chapter number 1 revision in this video, and the other revisions video will follow. So friends, thank you for now.